The Flash arrived 3 days ago, and tonight I am finally going to tell you what actually happened, because what you experienced was not what any of us fully expected. I am Ashtar, and if you have followed this entire series, you already know what the previous 5 stages built toward. Tonight, I want to walk you through exactly what happened when that final moment actually arrived, and what it means for you now that it is past. I want to begin with something honest, because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve a tidy, satisfying conclusion. The surge itself did not look to your ordinary instruments like anything dramatic at all. No sudden blackout, no visible event in your sky, nothing your conventional science flagged as unusual. I want you to understand why this matters. The Flash was never meant to be primarily a physical event, detectable by physical instruments. It was considerably more precisely a frequency event moving through your entire solar system, and its true effects registered considerably more clearly in your own bodies and your own consciousness than in anything a satellite could measure. I want to speak about what I've heard from many of you in the days immediately following, because I think this deserves direct acknowledgement tonight. Some of you experienced exactly the sudden clarity, the sense of arrival, the profound shift I had described in earlier transmissions. Others of you felt, honestly, very little at all, and I know that absence has left some of you wondering whether something went wrong, whether you were somehow left behind, whether the entire series built toward a moment that simply passed you by without touching you the way it touched others. I want to address this directly and clearly tonight, because I do not want that particular fear to continue sitting with any of you unnecessarily. I want to explain why the experience genuinely varied so widely from person to person, because I think understanding the mechanism removes considerable unnecessary worry. The Flash delivered exactly the same frequency to every soul on your world simultaneously. What varied was not the delivery. What varied was each individual soul's own capacity to consciously register it, shaped by exactly how much of the preceding 5 stages that particular soul had already genuinely integrated. Some of you, having done considerable inner work across this entire series, experienced the Flash as a genuinely dramatic, unmistakable arrival. Others, whose own integration was already further along before the series even began, experienced it as something considerably subtler, simply because there was less remaining friction left for the Flash to visibly overcome. I want to be clear about something important here, because I do not want tonight's transmission to suggest a quiet experience means a lesser one. A subtle experience of this event does not mean you received less of it. It very often means the opposite, that your own system required less dramatic correction because you had already done more of the integration work, quietly, gradually, across the weeks this series unfolded. I want you to trust this rather than measuring your own experience against anyone else's more visible, more dramatic account of what the Flash felt like for them. Before I continue, I want to mention there is a space built for comparing exactly these kinds of post-Flash experiences with others who moved through this same series. A community on School called The Truth Can Change Your Life. For those of you who want more than a single transmission's worth of context, now that this particular chapter has closed. I want to speak now about what has actually changed, in practical, observable terms, in the days since the Flash arrived, because I do not want tonight's transmission to remain only description of the event itself. Many of you have reported a genuine settling, a sense that the sharp, uneven bursts I described in Stage 5 have softened into something considerably steadier. Sleep, for many of you, has begun stabilizing again, still lighter than it was before this entire series began, but no longer fragmented the way it was during the most intense recent stretch. I want you to receive this settling as exactly what it is: genuine evidence of successful integration, your own system finding a new, considerably higher baseline than the one it operated from before this series started. I want to speak about something else many of you have reported, a genuine shift in what you find yourselves drawn toward now, compared to where your attention rested before this series began. Old habits, old distractions, old patterns of numbing yourself against difficult feeling. Many of you have found these simply hold less appeal than they once did, not through effortful discipline, but through a genuine, felt sense that they no longer match the frequency you are now more consistently holding. I want you to trust this shift rather than second-guessing it. This is precisely the kind of change this entire series was always building toward. Not a single dramatic moment of transformation, but a genuine lasting shift in your own baseline experience of ordinary daily life. I want to speak now about something I want to be honest with you about, because I do not want tonight's transmission to overpromise what has actually changed at the collective planetary level. Your world has not transformed overnight into the fully realized harmonious reality some of you may have quietly hoped the flash itself would instantly deliver. I want you to understand why this was never actually the flash's purpose. It delivered a genuine, considerable shift in available frequency, but your collective world still requires the ongoing, patient work of individual souls, choosing day after day to actually live from that available frequency rather than automatically returning to old, familiar patterns simply because they remain comfortable and habitual. I want to speak about what this means for you now, practically in the days and weeks ahead. The heaviest lifting of this particular series has genuinely concluded. What remains is considerably more ordinary, though no less important, the daily patient practice of actually living from the new baseline this entire series helped establish within you. I want you to understand this as good news rather than disappointment. You are not facing another intense stage requiring the same kind of bracing effort the earlier stages sometimes demanded. You are facing instead the considerably gentler work of simply continuing to choose, day after day, the frequency you now have genuinely greater access to. I want to speak now about the wider collective field, because I know several of you have asked whether the flash produced any measurable shift beyond your own individual experience. I want to answer this honestly rather than offering only reassurance. The collective field surrounding your world has genuinely lightened since the flash arrived, though I want to be careful about how I describe this shift. It is not a dramatic, universally visible transformation your entertainment might lead you to expect. It is, considerably more accurately, a subtle rebalancing, the kind of shift that shows up gradually. In slightly more patient conversations, slightly less reactive collective mood, small pockets of genuine cooperation appearing where reactive conflict once dominated more consistently. I want you to watch for these small signs in your own daily life rather than waiting for a single, unmistakable, universal confirmation. I want to speak about resistance to this shift because I do not want tonight's transmission to suggest every part of your collective world welcomed it equally. Exactly as I cautioned in earlier transmissions, patterns benefiting from your world's previous, denser baseline have not simply accepted this shift passively. I want you to expect continued friction in the coming weeks. Fear-driven narratives arriving with particular intensity, precisely because the underlying field sustaining them has genuinely weakened, and those patterns are working harder to compensate for that loss. This is not evidence the flash failed to accomplish anything. It is, considerably more accurately, evidence of exactly the opposite. A genuine shift significant enough to provoke real resistance from whatever benefited from the previous state of affairs. I want to speak about those of you who still feel, honestly, that nothing much has changed at all, because I do not want tonight's transmission to leave you without genuine direct address. If this describes you, I want you to know first that this does not mean the series failed you, and it does not mean you did something wrong. Some souls integrate gradually, continuing to process what a series like this one delivered for considerably longer than the series itself lasted, sometimes for weeks or months afterward, the effects arriving quietly in retrospect, rather than announcing themselves clearly in the moment. I want you to remain gently attentive over the coming weeks, rather than concluding too quickly that nothing occurred simply because nothing occurred immediately. I want to give you 3 specific signs to watch for over these coming weeks, so tonight's message stays concrete rather than only reassurance. The first is a genuine reduction in how quickly you spiral into worry about hypothetical future problems. Many of you will notice your own mind returning, more consistently than before, to the present moment, rather than looping anxiously through scenarios that have not actually happened. The second is a specific kind of steadiness in your own emotional reactions, feeling things fully when they arise, genuine sadness, genuine frustration, genuine joy, but recovering considerably faster than you once did, without the reaction lingering for days the way it might have before this series began. The third is a subtle shift in your own relationship to time itself, days feeling paradoxically both fuller and less rushed, as though you are genuinely present for more of what happens in them, rather than moving through them on autopilot. If you notice these 3 signs emerging gradually over the coming weeks, even if you did not feel anything dramatic on the day the flash itself arrived, you are still very much integrating everything this series was built to deliver. I want to speak about gratitude now because I think it deserves genuine space before I close this particular series tonight. Whatever your own individual experience of these 6 stages has been, dramatic or subtle, exactly as expected or genuinely surprising, I want you to receive real appreciation for having walked through this entire unfolding with the patience and the openness it required. This was never a small thing I was asking of you, even in the transmissions that felt, at the time, relatively gentle. Sustained attention, sustained openness across an entire series like this one is itself a genuine act of service, both to your own growth and to the wider collective field this series was always ultimately contributing toward. I want to speak about children specifically in the aftermath of this event because their experience differs meaningfully from most adults' experience of it. Many children, especially the youngest among you, integrated this shift with remarkable ease, simply because they carried less accumulated resistance for the flash to work against in the first place. If a child in your life has seemed unusually calm, unusually clear, or unusually affectionate these past few days, understand this as their own system settling smoothly into the same new baseline. Yours is still working to fully stabilize. I want to speak about community now because I do not think the integration work ahead of you is meant to be carried out entirely alone. If you know others who walked through this same series alongside you, I want to encourage you to compare experiences directly, openly, without judgment toward whoever felt more or less than someone else. This series was never a competition, and the differences between your experiences and someone else's reflect genuine, valid differences in your own particular starting point, not any kind of ranking of who integrated more successfully than anyone else. I want to speak about what happens now that this particular series has formally concluded, because I do not want you to feel as though nothing further awaits you. This world's larger unfolding continues, exactly as it always has, and I will continue bringing you transmissions addressing whatever comes next in that ongoing story. I want you to understand this series' conclusion as exactly that, the completion of one particular chapter, not the end of the larger story it was always part of. Whatever comes next builds on the genuine foundation this series helped establish within you, considerably more prepared than you would have been without it. I want to offer you one final practical suggestion before I close tonight's transmission, something to carry forward regardless of how dramatic or subtle your own experience of the flash actually was. Continue the daily practice of checking in honestly with your own frequency, exactly as I encouraged you throughout this entire series. A few quiet minutes, however you find them, simply noticing where your own thoughts and your own emotions currently sit. This practice does not end simply because the series that introduced it has concluded. It becomes considerably more usefully an ongoing habit, continuing to serve you long after any single series or any single dramatic event is passed into memory. I want to close tonight by returning to where I began, the flash that arrived 3 days ago, considerably quieter in its outward appearance than many of you expected, and considerably more significant in what it actually delivered underneath that quiet surface. You have completed something real. Whatever your own particular experience of it looked like, you are not the same as you were when this series began, even if that difference expresses itself gradually, in the quiet accumulation of ordinary days, rather than in any single dramatic moment you could point to and call finished. Move gently through the coming weeks. Trust the settling you are feeling, even if it looks different from what you expected. Continue the daily practice of choosing your own frequency deliberately, rather than waiting for another dramatic event to do that choosing for you. And know that whatever comes next, in whatever form it eventually arrives, you meet it considerably more prepared than you were the day this entire series first began. One final thought before I leave you tonight. 6 stages ago, when this series began, none of us, myself included, knew exactly what shape its conclusion would finally take. What I can tell you now, having walked through the entire arc alongside you, is that it unfolded exactly as it needed to. For each of you individually, regardless of how it compared to whatever any single transmission along the way predicted it might look like. This has been an Ashtar command transmission. Tell us in the comments what you actually experienced when the flash arrived, and whether tonight's explanation of the variation between different people's experiences made sense of your own.
I want to tell you something important. In this video, we're going to share why this school community exists and why you might feel called to join. What is The Truth Can Change Your Life? It's a day-by-day spiritual community for genuine awakening and ascension. Here you'll receive clear, unfiltered, mind-blowing, out-of-this-world information about ascension, the 5th dimension, clones, biorobots, human hybrids, artificial intelligence, reptilians, and many more hidden truths of our reality. Welcome to the family. The truth can change your life, and your next level of awakening begins the moment you step in.